I got it. All
Okay.
right, take it away.
All right. Well, good morning. Today we are going to talk about Wheel of Fortune. And it's not the wheel that we see almost every day on TV with now, I guess, the retired Pat Sajak, but it is your will, the inner part of you that that is within us. So I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to go through some PowerPoints as well so that you can have some visuals of some things. And we will get right into it. So let me share my screen. And here we go. Going to on the right page first. All right, Wheel of Fortune. How to develop your will. Well, let's just first start out. How many of us have ever seen a brain? Ever? How many of us have ever? I'm going to look in here to see if I can see everybody's face. How many of us have ever seen an actual brain? Okay, Denise, Helen Ann, and I'm going to raise my hand too, both hands. I did. I saw a brain years and years and years ago. We went to this event right here. Can you see? It was called Our Body, the Universe Within. And it was at the Detroit Science Center. And they had actual human bodies there. It was an amazing, amazing exhibit. And it was a traveling exhibit. So I don't know how many of you in your states and maybe even countries got a chance to see what we saw. And to this day, they still do have some of the actual human bodies at or in the Detroit Science Center. But what I noticed after going around this wonderful exhibit and even participating in the question and answer, they have like a sunken kind of auditorium. And you go down there and the speaker is in there and you're raising hands, asking questions. And every single thing that we got a chance to see really was, although magnificent, it was all things that they talked about that is normal. They talked about the neurons, which are 100 billion microscopic cells within the brain. They talked about the pituitary gland. They talked about the pineal gland. They talked about the color, the feel, the shape. But one thing they didn't talk about were the things that God has within us that we really don't all of the time talk about, which are the mental faculties. Now, there are six, and although there are six today, we are only going to talk about one of them. But the mental faculties, in case you want to do more research later, are things that we out and maybe even talk about at times, but to really focus upon them, we really don't in the way of focusing to develop. And the mental faculties are memory, reason, will, intuition, perception, and imagination. So it's just really amazing to me how we are really conditioned in our lives. We're conditioned in our lives not to really develop what's inside of us. We're told it, but it's not a direct action in school to deliberately develop these. Maybe memory might be one, because a teacher may say to you, you don't remember that? We went over that yesterday. Or imagination, really imagination really when you're really a child, not so much as an adult. Use your imagination in order to think about all the various things, or the teacher will say great imagination. But when the teacher says that, they say it almost with a definite, you have a great imagination now, but you won't have that in the future. You won't use that in the future. And in actuality, we do. So let's talk about the will for a moment. the will, Charles Fillmore structured all of the 12 powers of man in the way that he, as he studied, thought that it should be developed. And he thought that will should be the 8th power in our developing process. He associated that with the month of August because it was the 8th power that he came up with. Now, I want everybody to take their dominant hand and I want them to touch the top of their head like this. Okay? That is where the will is located. It's in the center front of the brain. That's exactly where it is. It's invisible unless you have imaging machines and things of that nature if you go to the hospital or a specialist. But it's right there. The disciple that the will is associated with is Matthew. And it's because of his spiritual commitment, his conversion from being a tax collector to wanting to follow Jesus on this path. And so he was the right one to do that, to be that disciple for this particular power. And the color that is associated with will is silver. And it's silver because it's reflective. It's showing you, mirroring back to you what you're doing, who you are, how you see yourself. So again, the mental faculties themselves cannot be seen, but the results of what we're thinking and feeling all of the time are seen. If you just take a look at your life, take a look at all of the things that are material that we manifest, that's right in front of us, the very chair that we are sitting in is a result of the process that went on within us. And part of that is, of course, the will. Now, as you look at this, in the revealing word, Charles Fillmore gives a definition of the will, and he says that it is the executive faculty of the mind and the determining factor in man, and it is what man wills or decrees that comes to pass in his experience. If you look over to the left side, I have some little arrows, and the top right arrow facing left, pointing left, is the will. And what encompasses or what is inside of creating that will, developing that will, is your imagination and your understanding. We can also add faith in there, but it's really the imagination and understanding that determines your will. Okay. Now, once you sculpt the will in the way that you want, once you use that imagination, once you use that understanding and clarity about what it is you want and why you want it, it really is going to be like crafting an arrow, if you can imagine that, by hand, so that you can then throw it at the dart, the bullseye, and you hit it. The will is basically a frequency that you are holding until it materializes or manifests. That's exactly what it is. In order to, we've got some feedback. Hold on. Let's see if we can turn that. Stephen, can you catch that for me, please? Unmute me. Thank you for doing that. Okay. All right. So again, the mental faculties are, of course, the ones you see here. But when it comes to the will, in order to get the will to be sustaining, to hold that frequency of what it is that you really want, you have to really know what you really want. So you have to make a decision, a decree, have a conviction about what it is that you're wanting, in order to hold that frequency to get to where you want to really truly be. So that is the will. So we're now going to go into what it does. The will allows for you to, again, manifest what it is you want. So say, for instance, and I'm going to take a page right out of our lives, just say the election. Now, no, we cannot determine the election, but what we can do is concentrate, stay steadfast on what it is that we are wanting. And what we're wanting is the best outcome for everybody, no matter what. So you think about what it is you want and you decree that I am not going to allow the outside to focus on the outside, because I want peace within my inside. So no matter what is said or heard or spoken about in your presence, you're not going to engage. The will is sustaining the frequency of saying, I'm not going to engage in that conversation. I don't want to feel what I feel when I watch television listening to that stuff. I want to feel good. I want to feel joy. I want to feel happiness. And frankly, I want to concentrate on my own life because I know I have control over that myself. So you're holding that frequency, making it a decree that I'm not going to allow that outside influence to influence my inside. So you're holding it to the exclusion of any and every distraction there is. Another example would be if you are on a diet, you're not going to allow yourself to eat things that you're not supposed to eat, because at the end of the day, you want to be healthy. So strengthening this mental faculty called the will, you have to have clarity and understanding. Once you decide on what it is that you want, whatever that goal is, you start to see the picture, the image come up on the screen of your mind. Now that's the vision. When you start imagining it, now you're placing yourself in that image because you're liking it. You like it a lot. And you're saying, okay, I think I like this. Now, mind you, we're in an ocean of motion. So that's always around us, in us, through us, constantly, all day, every day. And as those thoughts through the highway of the senses come into us, we may grasp on to one of those thoughts that come into our mind from the highway and say, you know what, I kind of like that. But you're not sure about it, but it starts to maybe connect with that belief system that's within you, and you start to feel a certain way towards it, which is good maybe. Whether it's good or bad, it may not be a good thing, but it could be. But whatever it is, you're starting to feel a certain attachment, a connection to it. Then it pops up on the screen of your mind. You're thinking, I think I do want that, or I'm thinking I may not want that. And as you're thinking about that, now you're developing momentum within you. You're making the frequency hotter and hotter and wider and wider, until finally you're thinking, okay, this is going to sustain. And you're thinking about it, feeling about it all day, every day, and you can't stop. You may be doing other things, but the will is already there. We're already doing this all day, every day. You just don't know it because you're not deliberately focusing upon what it is you absolutely want. We do it all day, every day. How many times do you say, and maybe to your spouse or your partner, and you say, gosh, when I can't reach that person, but when I get home, I'm going to tell them about what I saw or who I saw or what happened today. And you're holding that. That's called a short-term holding of your will. And you're holding it because you know you want to go to that person and tell them everything that you did that just happened, especially if it was someone that you all had been speaking about, and you just say, hey, I got to tell you this, and I couldn't reach you all day. That's holding your will. But now when you deliberately want something that is not so in your mind attainable, then now you want to practice holding it. But in order to hold it really, to get to that point that you really want to be, you really have to resonate with it. So it has to be something that you really want, because if not, you're going to lose it. It's going to break. The energy pattern will break. The frequency will break. It's like unplugging something from an outlet, a light or a fan out of the outlet. You're breaking it. And the way we break it is simply by our thoughts and our feelings, or even speaking to someone else who may have doubt in whatever it is that we have now decided was a decree or a goal for ourselves. One of the best things to do is probably not tell anyone whatever it is that you're thinking or feeling, because then they're not going to be able to sever it. They really can't sever it themselves. You're the only one in choice that has the choice to sever that thought, that feeling, that vibration. But your agreement with whatever they're saying is, when two or more come together, they touch and agree. You're going to touch and agree, and you're going to sever it. So once you come up with the goal that you absolutely want and you decree it, it's a conviction. You know, I am going to do that no matter what. You are drawing it in like a magnet. And you know how sometimes there are some magnets that you cannot pull apart at all. If something's attached to it, the magnifying power of that magnet is so strong that maybe even two of you cannot even pull it apart. That is the will. The will is that magnet, that power, that engine that is going to stay there and not allow for it to go away until it is manifested, until it materializes. Now, you may not like the way that it materialized, because maybe although you had the goal, you didn't have all of the clarity that you thought you wanted. So you will get what you've asked for, which means then you just refine it again. Say, that wasn't quite what I wanted. I have to go back to the drawing board. And then you go back, you refine it, and then you get there. One of the biggest examples right now in our lives, other than the election, is the Olympics. So I put all these up because these are the sports that were represented in the Olympics this year. I should say the Paris Olympics this year. And each person that came to the Olympics, each person was practicing using the power of their will. One thing was, I want to get to the Olympics. I want to play in the Olympics. I want to do that. I want to be there. I want to win. Now, where things shift is what it is they are wanting to win at the Olympics. Some people definitely said, I want the gold. That is exactly what I want, and I want it. Now, some people, depending on their belief in them, the knowing, the power, the image, the feeling, they may not know that although they want the gold, they may not believe that they can obtain the gold. So they say, I'm just going to go for the silver, or I'm just going to go for the bronze. So the goal, the ultimate goal, was to get to the Olympics. Now they have to chisel it. What do they want to do or have once they get there? It was phenomenal. I started listening to each of the competitors as they won the gold, the bronze, the silver. And each one said the same thing. I wanted to go to the Olympics and I wanted the gold. You didn't so much hear necessarily the ones that won the silver and the bronze say, I wanted to go to the Olympics, I wanted to come here, but I only wanted to win the silver and the bronze. No one said that because they wanted it, but they didn't decree it. The others decreed it with their actions, their thoughts, their feelings, and they won it. And not just the individual, but then you have to go to the team vision of the Olympics, because the teams won. And the teams that won the gold also had that same goal of we are going to go there and we are going to win, And this is what we're winning. We're not coming home with anything else, just the gold. And they did it. That's called really sustaining it, because some of these people, you know, they've been doing it since they were like 9, 10 years old. And then they get there and then they do it and then they win. So that's something in our lives right now that is just amazing to watch and celebrate with them. This is the gold, the silver, and the bronze. I absolutely love it. I should have borrowed maybe some gold from one of our Olympians in our community. Maybe I could have shown it. But I want to say this, that nothing, and this is a quote from me, nothing is impossible when you develop your will. One last person, or I should say, not just person, I'm going to stop share. One last example of holding the will in your mind of what you want to do that maybe is not the election and not an Olympian, is someone that I know that was very vibrant and then all of a sudden turned into a space of not being able to move, being in a wheelchair, not being able to do different things. And this was just this past December. And now that person, because on the screen of her mind and the feeling nature that she has, she is continually holding that frequency of I am excellent health. She's not letting go. She's letting everything stay plugged into that source that is always on, which is God, to guide. And she's now in water aerobics. She is swimming. She's doing all these different things that people would have thought, oh, poor person, they're not able to do this or that. And she decreed a thing. And she decided, you know what? I do not want to be like that. If she went into a doctor's office, I don't want to be like all these other people and just settling with what it appears life is supposed to be. And that person is my mom. I'm very proud of her. She has done quite a bit of things to continue to develop. It doesn't mean that sometimes things don't go awry, because they do, but that would be the distraction. The things that go awry is the distraction. The will is sustaining that very thought, I am health, I am health, I am mobile, I am having a great time in life. That is the will sustaining it no matter what. And she's doing it. And I'm very, very happy for her. So now, again, nothing is impossible when you develop your will. Now we're going to go into a few questions before we go into meditation. So I hope all of you have something to write with, unless you have really great mental faculty of the memory. I'm going to ask you a few questions because I want you to really consider these for yourselves as you're thinking about this talk, as you go back. Okay. So the first question, and this exercise is just for you, so that you can really honestly answer for yourselves how you are doing with developing your will. So the first question is, where in your life are you using your concentration, your focus, your will to sabotage yourself? Think about that for a minute. There may be parts of your life that you really don't realize it, but now that you're aware of what the will is and where it comes from and how it is, think about this for a minute. Where in your life are you using your focus, your concentration, will, those are all the same kind of words, to sabotage yourself? Meaning, what is playing on the screen of your mind or in your feeling nature as well that is preventing you from getting to where you want to actually be? The next question is, Are you spending more time focusing on what was or is and what you don't want or where you're going and your current goals? I know it's a long one, so let's go back. Are you spending more time focusing on what was or is? Because what was is in the past, but the what is might be the results that you're not liking. That may just, you're standing in that puddle that Stephen and I always talk about, the puddle of results. Are you focusing on that? Or are you focusing, allowing that feeling, that phrase, that word, that decree to actually be what it is that you truly want, not what you are getting right now? And the second part to that question is, well, let's go to the third question. If you knew without a shadow of a doubt that your will, that eighth power alone could change your present circumstances, would you yourself have the discipline to focus on that good? If you knew without a shadow of a doubt that your will alone could change your present circumstances, would you have the discipline to focus on your good? Sit with these questions. Really be honest with yourself. Answer them. And if not, then go back, listen to what we've talked about today, and change, make a change, make a decree, make a change. Decree that you're going to make a change. And then go from there. Now, I want to go into a meditation before we close. Now, if we were in person, I would hand out a bag of feathers, but we're not. So I want you to imagine when you're doing this at home, either get a cotton ball if you don't have any feathers, or a tissue, something light, something airy like that, or even a needle, not needle and thread, but the thread, and get that and put that in your hand. Just get enough where you can put it in the center of your hand. So I will say, if you are driving or watching people or operating machinery or with a child, do not close your eyes. Just do this later. But if you are now here present and you're able to do it, then I ask you to close your eyes. And this is going to be a meditation to help you develop your will. So take in a few deep breaths. And I want you to now imagine holding the feather, holding the cotton ball, the thread, whatever it is that's light and airy, the tissue. Closing your eyes, breathe in. Focus on your breath. Focusing on your breath is feeling your body going in and out. Maybe even if you're that sensitive, feeling the breath moving, circulating in and out as you're breathing. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to the item that you have in your hand. It's the sensation of the feather. Do you feel it? If you can't, it's okay. Practice it. Because there's a sensation there, although as light as it is, you should still feel it. Do that until. So I ask for you to come back to center, come back and focus here and now. It's a very quick but powerful meditation for you to develop your will. And if that doesn't seem to work for you right away, you can always use whatever it is and feel the sensation that's on your skin, on your cheek, or on your hand of whatever it is that you have. And do it again. Close your eyes, feel the sensation. And if your mind wanders, do it again so you can focus back on the sensation of whatever it is you're holding. Namaste. Well,
Thank you. That was
you're
awesome.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let me just see if there's any questions coming in from the Facebook Live crew.
Okay. Should I look too?
No, we're good. I don't see
Okay.
anything in there at the moment. Sometimes they come in during the week, so we will monitor those questions for you all looking in, and we will reply to those as we see them. Now, let me bring myself back so we're sharing here. Where did I go? Here I am. Okay, thank you for that, Tené. Totally
You're
awesome.
welcome.
Totally awesome. Appreciate that. What we're going to do here is we're going to let go of the feed to social media and to YouTube and say thank you to all of you looking in at social media. We'll stay here in the Zoom room, so don't go anywhere. Let me disconnect from social media, but I want to thank you all for looking in and thank you for being with us every Sunday, 9 a.m. Central Time, right here on Facebook Live. See you next week. All right, we are free and clear from social media. Let's get free and clear from my face
My goodness.
so we can do that. And you can talk with Tené, see if you have any questions regarding any of that.
Any questions?
That was great.
Loved it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You
Good.
can't imagine how I feel like I needed to hear that.
Me too.
Oh,
I will probably play this again.
Yes.
oh, good. Thank you, John. Thank you, Sandy.